10 o'clock. Anybody not being able to sit in here will have to move outside in the hallway, and we'll call on you as need be. Before we do anything else, we're going to stand up, and Senator Jandra will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome. The first order of business this morning is to deal with an amendment, and Senator Lang will introduce it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you, you should have amendment number 1225S to Senate Bill 536. This is a non-germane amendment I'm asking the members to consider. This was originally started off as a request for a bill by Representative Greg Hill of Northfield. He submitted it to OLS this year and they forgot it. It literally just never got processed as a bill and entered as a bill. And it wasn't until the representative went to go figure out why it wasn't scheduled yet. He found out that OLS never drafted the bill. The language before you and the reason this bill is before you and the reason why it was submitted was we passed this law, I want to say it was 2 years ago, that basically gave charter schools the right of first refusal to unused district properties, allowed them to submit a bid and negotiate with the school system. In that original bill, there was a timeline like this submitted. However, after it passed the House, it came over to the Senate decided that in its infinite wisdom that the timeline wasn't needed, that nobody was going to be, mistreat this law. However, in my district, guess what? The first time property became available for a charter school, submitted a request on a bid on an unused piece of school property on July 7th, and they still have not acted on it, the school board. So it's been sitting there just waiting, and the charter school is trying to move forward with facilities. So it was reintroduced with the timeline submitted to stop that. As we all try to, we expect everybody to act in good faith. And in this situation, I'm not necessarily sure the school board acted in good faith. They sat and held the quote now for over 9 months. They've been sitting on offer by a charter school to buy an empty public school that the charter school wanted to move into, and the school board's done nothing with it. So we're going to put it back, put the timelines back into the law so that going forward, this problem would never happen again. That's the bill.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Okay. Do we have anybody who wants to speak on this in the amendment? Is this on the amendment? Okay. Okay. Christina Barrett, or Barrett Christina? Okay, thank you. Representative Linda Tanner?
Thank you. For the record, I'm Representative Linda Tanner. I represent Sullivan District 5, the towns of Sunapee and Springfield. And I am the sponsor of the underlying bill to which this non-germane amendment has been attached. So I had a chance to look at the amendment, and as the sponsor said, this has only been in effect for 2 years. The charter school request for unused parts of buildings or unused buildings, and looked at the amendment. And there's a couple of questions I have about the amendment that I just like to point out. One is substantive. I tried to look up what that word meant legally, and I really didn't get any good answers to it. I'm not a lawyer, so I may not have the access to areas that have more information about that, but I think that needs to be addressed. I think the other thing is, in the original bill 194, or the RSA 194:61, which deals with this whole transfer of unused buildings. It talks about a fair market price. And I noticed that in this amendment, it is only indicated as a fair price. I think fair market price is more applicable to real estate transfers and should be used in this, if it's used in this bill at all. The other thing is, I would just say that I think local control of town buildings, school buildings, should be looked at, you know, in a different light. I think to throw it into the Commissioner of Education as the independent mediator and now real estate person who is supposed to look up independent appraisals and values of properties, I think that's a little bit of a reach. So those are just a few things that I thought going through the amendment, and I also would strongly recommend that you read the full section 194:61 on the transfer, because there's quite a lot of steps that that the school and the charter school go through in order for the building to first be put on the market and then for the charters who have first refusal.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Greg Hill?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Thank you to the committee for allowing this bill to be heard. As the sponsor indicated, this was the first time for me in 10 years for something like this to happen. I've always relied on any submission I put in time to come out with an actual bill, and it didn't in this case, and it kind of surprised me. But I appreciate the effort you're making to have it be heard. It is the same district that I belong to, as the senator and the prime sponsor indicated, and the situation is exactly as he indicated, that we had a bid go in, and if you'll look at the actual law on this, it said in paragraph D, if the offering school district has not received an offer to purchase or lease an unused facility from a party other than an approved charter public school operating in the state, a chartered public school may initiate, and the school board of the offering school district shall engage in good faith negotiations for the purchase or lease of the unused facility. Seems pretty simple language. Our school district, our school board, decided that because it didn't have a timeline, they were under no obligation to even acknowledge that the bid arrived. In non-public session, they tabled the bid. So to this day, they have had no conversation, and that happened in July 7th, I think. To this day, they've had no contact with that charter school. And the taxpayers of our district have been paying to heat an empty building, an unoccupied building, with no conversation. So I agree with the prime sponsor that there's some question whether that is a good faith negotiation, quote unquote. But it would seem that the simple solution would be to include some type of deadline, some timeline for this to occur. And then while we were discussing the timeline, and the sponsor is correct, it was in there and it was taken out during the committee of conference process, because it was mentioned during that conference that no school would want to hang on to a property, so they're going to do it anyway. They want to get rid of these properties. So we acquiesced, and this is where it's put us. But as far as while we were just debating the date or the timeline, it came, well, what happens if nothing happens? And that's why the idea of a mediator and an independent mediator to determine what that price should be for either a sale or a purchase should take place. And so that's, it's as simple a fix as we could come up with, and it seems as clean a fix as we could come up with. And it's still gives offerings and chances for negotiation throughout the entire process. So we think it's a good solution, and I would hope that the committee agrees. With
Thank
that,
you.
I'll happy to take any questions.
Senator Fenton has a question.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you for being here and taking my question. Why charter schools of everything? It just seems like this is specifically for charter schools that to get this property.
Thank you very much, Senator, for the question. I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning. The idea is these are public school students, and in many cases, charter schools are, because of their nature and how they were created, they don't have the luxury of having buildings that are designed for education. In many cases, I think we have 30 or 32 charter schools. Many of those are now in leased property, and because those buildings that are available for leased property are generally commercial, they're not suitable. Let me change that word. They're not appropriate for, in many cases, for a learning environment. They don't have kitchen facilities often. They don't have playground facilities often. So this was a way of taking surplus property and directing it to other public school children. The same children, I'll point out that the parents have already paid taxes to build that school in many cases. So it seems the perfect solution for that charter school, for that chartered public school, to have a building that was designed specifically for children.
Is that
Follow up.
Mhm.
follow up?
Thank you for the follow up. Yeah, I'm reading this amendment, and it looks like it's giving power all to that chartered public school you mentioned. Said, what if the school selling the piece of property doesn't like the price? And in line 21 and 22, it says the chartered public school gets to accept or reject the offer. That institution selling the piece of property has no say, especially with real estate prices everywhere today. So it looks like, am I wrong in saying that, the chartered school gets to decide if they're buying it or not the institution selling it?
Thank you for your question. I think the point is there that this is to, and you need to recall that the situation is a school that is being recalcitrant or defying state law in order to pass on this building to a charter school in the first place. But the idea is once the school district has voted, and it was the school board that brought this to the voters and said, we would like to sell this. We do not want to continue the upkeep of this school. That was their decision to sell it at that point. From that point on, we need to make sure that there are negotiations that are serious. And that was the reason for doing it this way, so that the school board would not do what they've done here clearly and ignored the entire situation. So that was the purpose, to make sure that there would be an interest in making sure that this took place. And that's why, it is up to the school board to enter into those good faith negotiations, and it behooves them to do so for that very reason.
One more follow up.
Follow up?
Sorry, thank you for taking my question.
Yeah,
Sorry to
no.
bombard you. It doesn't sound like good faith negotiations, though. I mean, 22, offering a charter public school to accept or reject. That doesn't sound like a negotiation to me. Yes or no? Sounds like there's no negotiation between that.
Thank you for your question. I would point you back up to say that this offering school district would enter into, as it said in the current law, that the school board shall enter into good faith negotiations. So that is the school board having their opportunity to negotiate that price. Within those 60 days, if they can't come up with that price, then obviously we need to figure out at that point whether the place that they're at the end of those 60 days is worth it or not. And the mediator will decide who has the better argument for what that selling price would be. So it pushes everything into those 60 days to try to say, look, you have to come up with this number. Once the voters in the district have decided that this is to be sold, make it happen.
Sorry, one more follow-up. Thank you for bearing with me. And thank you for taking these questions. Sorry to.
No,
just go through
I
this.
fully understand your point.
But my fear is that, this independent mediator is the one setting the price, and then that language down there with the accept or reject is what's happening. So I'm the school board, and now I have to, accept the offer because it's up to the charter school to accept or reject. I'm selling this piece of property, but you're saying that that chartered school gets to decide if they're going to buy it or not. I don't have any power anymore.
Thank you for your question. I would point out it's the same. Look who's creating the problem now. It's not the charter school. They're looking to make this happen. It's in this case, it's the public school. It's the traditional public school, the offering school, that is recalcitrant. It is holding back on doing this negotiation even. So I get your point. I do. I just don't know how it is if for instance you made that either side could decide not to do it. How would we be any better off than we are right now with a 9-month negotiation or non-negotiation? If you give the traditional public school that's selling the ability to say, no, that's not enough, or no, we can't come to an agreement, they would basically be doing exactly what they're doing now, which is not even negotiating.
I took up a lot of your time. Thank you.
No. It's a good conversation. I appreciate it.
Senator Lang.
Thank you, Representative, for taking my question. So again, I'm just trying to make sure everyone understands as we walk through this process. So again, a bid was a charter school, as I read what we're doing here, charter school submits a bid, school district enters in negotiations with the charter school. It could be a bid lower than their asking price, and they negotiate in between where it's going to go, just like any other real estate action. However, if there's no negotiations, because there's an obligation of first refusal, the Commissioner of Education will engage an independent person who will set a fair market price, either lease or purchase price, and then it's up to the charter school to say we can afford that or can't. Is that the way
Right.
this runs? Thank you.
That's how I would see it. I would add, I would have no problem, obviously. I'm not sure whether it was a typo or not, but I think it probably should say fair market price as the representative mentioned. I don't know why it wouldn't, truthfully.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Is there anybody in the audience that has something to say on the amendment to Bill 536? Seeing none, now we'll close the hearing on that. We can go right over to the next one, which is House Bill 275. Do we have Representative Ladd here? Welcome.
Good morning, Senator Ward and members of the Senate Education Committee. For the record, my name is Rick Ladd, representative from Haverhill, New Hampshire, not Massachusetts, and I'm here today to introduce HB 275 to you. I have put together several sheets there for your information as we wade through this bill. The first sheet, which I'd like to go through, is this one. I think it's the third one. They are all stapled together this morning upstairs. And I'll walk through what this bill is trying to do and what it's trying to clarify. As you know, that we have a number of school districts within the state that may be a K through 4, K through 6, K through 8, a lot of different configurations, even some K3s. And what happens when the students get to the upper level within that school district? They are then tuitioned out to another school district which can provide all the requirements that we require within the opportunity for an adequate education. So that's what we call the tuition program. The receiving school is approved by the local school board. That's already in statute. We've been doing this for years. This is a program that's been in effect ever since I've been around this state, and even before I left Maine years and years ago, it was being done over there as well and in Vermont. So going down that sheet where you see the arrows, so the top part explains we have all these different configurations and organizational and structure in this state. And that's also explained in box number 2 there, coming down, where you see if it's the program's not offered or they don't have the grade levels, it goes down to the receiving school. Now, that the agreements between the sending district and the receiving district are done by the school board working with the receiving school board. Agreements are made and then approved by the local town meeting. The sending district can oftentimes have multiple receiving districts. You can enter into numerous tuition schools. These are not, it's not a situation where the parent walks in and said, well, I'm done K through 8. I want the choice to send them anywhere I want. That's not the case. The receiving school has to be approved by the local school board. So I like to look at what's going on in the Upper Valley, where I come from, and throughout the state, this situation is occurring. On the first sheet there, if you look through to this third paragraph, you can see what's happening in the Upper Valley. I'm talking about Piermont, Warren, Landaff, Monroe, Bath. If I look at the small town of Piermont, which has approximately 80 kids, it's a very small K through 8 district. So they have to tuition out. And there's a process in which they establish what they can afford to do. They have established a cap. This is how much we'll pay for tuition. They take in 3 schools. They've taken Woodsville High School, which is in Haverhill, New Hampshire. Woodsville is a district of Haverhill. They've taken Rivendell, which is an interstate government district involving Fairleigh, Vermont, and Orford, New Hampshire. And they also take Oxbow High School, which is in Bradford, Vermont. They take these 3 tuition costs and average them out. Then they add in a fudge factor, and this is just unique to that. Another 18% is added on. So the bottom line comes out to slightly over $19,000 for tuition. That's what they approve. And you can see that in the bottom of that first sheet that we looked at. You can see $19,758. So what happens now is the kids are now, there's other schools which are approved by Piermont, and they are St. Johnsbury Academy. They've had Mascoma. They no longer have Mascoma because Mascoma went beyond their affordability range. Thetford Academy, also down in Vermont, across the river. So the issue came up that they had several years ago during the pandemic, 4 students from Piermont were looking, where am I going to go for my 9 through 12 experience? And of course, the way that worked back then because of COVID, you did your looking at the school by way of the web. You got online and did this visual tour of that school. 3 of the students of those 4, there are others that went elsewhere, but 3 of those 4 went to St. Johnsbury Academy. The other chose to go to Oxbow across the way. Now, why do students choose to go to one school, Oxbow being Bradford High School? One of those 3 that I mentioned that they designed this cap around. Why do kids go to various schools? Well, also on the 4th paragraph there, to make such a decision as where they go, parents consider the availability of academic programming. They'll look at these schools and say, okay, which one, my child has this type of interest, So I'm really heavy duty in the sciences. I'm going to send my child to St. Johnsbury Academy. My child's a fantastic athlete, basketball, love basketball. I'm going to send them to Woodsville High School, just won the Division IV championship. That's where I'm going to go. They have a great coach up there. My student likes theater. Well, Oxbow has a wonderful theater program. My student's looking at career technical education. All the career tech edge students in all these districts go to Riverbend, which is part of Oxbow High School in Vermont. So there's a lot of different rationale. Also, they go to Rivendell also because the parent is working down in, for example, Hanover or Leb, and they drive by Rivendell every day, so that transportation is already taken care of. Seeing that in our funding program for transportation is a K-8 issue, although many districts will provide the transportation for the high school students. So the rationale is I explained that. The bottom box, though, on the sheet with the arrow says, okay, now the tuition rate for those 4 students or 3 students who went to St. Johnsbury was within the cap at the time. Now what's happened is the tuition at St. J has gone up to $20,800, slightly higher than the cap. And they've negotiated with that and they brought it down a little bit, still over the cap. Well, now we have students in that same family where 3 of them are going, and the next one wants to go where Susan went to school at St. J or is at there, and the transportation's already taken care. It's above the cap. Susan can't go. And that's what they said to that 4th student who was going to Oxbow. The change occurred in that freshman year of these 4 kids. So now, where's that one that's going in Oxbow going to be? Staying in Oxbow? Well, I was able to negotiate with the headmaster at St. J Academy. It's like a Pinkerton. 240 kids are boarding students. The other 800 or so come from as far away as Quebec. They come from New Hampshire, and they come from Vermont, all as day students. See, it's only about a 45-minute ride down from the border. And for us going up, it's about a 30-minute ride, and they come from Bethlehem all over. And some come from Littleton as well. So that was negotiated. However, now folks are saying, well, can we pay the difference? We're a family. Can we pay that extra $800 or whatever it may be? And the school district's saying, well, I don't know if we're discriminating against a child that can't afford it. Well, they're providing all these options, these 4 or 5 different options, of which all have all the services that are required to receive an opportunity for an adequate education. Special education, career tech, the whole 9 yards. So then what we're trying to do is say, okay, can we provide something in law that clarifies that school board, if it's a locally approved receiving school, locally approved by the sending school board, the student may go there if they pay the difference, because you still have the option if you want to have a program that's going to be able to deal with your child that has traumatic brain injury or orthopedic needs or one of those IEP categories you think is best done elsewhere other than maybe at St. J, or maybe St. J has it. So that you can send and you can be guaranteed, because there is at least one anchor school which provides all those services. In the case of Piermont, all those schools provide the service. All of them provide special education service. They are all approved by either Montpelier or Concord. I'm talking about the DOE. So that's the nature of this program. It's basically a clarification. Yes, you can pay the difference as long as there is an option available that's going to provide your youngster, if you need it, that service is required. So the last paragraph states, in conclusion, students and parents look for learning options that best fit their learning needs and expectations. Parents also consider moving into tuition option communities when locating and choosing a place to live. This is exactly why many folks come up from Hanover and Lebanon and are looking for housing in Piermont. And they come there because they know they can get the housing, good housing. They can also have the option to send their child at these local school board approved locations. HB 275 as amended provides statutory support for those districts looking for clarifying language on this tuition program question. We've been doing this for years. There's K through 8s, K4s all over the state doing this. We just want to get some clarification. It's okay for a parent to pay the difference if the another option's available. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to take any questions you may have.
Questions from the committee members? None? I guess you made it perfectly clear.
That's unusual, Senator Ward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Representative Tanner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, I'm Representative Linda Tanner, Sullivan District 5, the beautiful towns of Sunapee and Springfield. And I'm here because I have some real issues with this bill. I think something around this issue needs to be clarified, definitely. But, you know, the whole idea of public education is equality. And Senator Ward and I both supported a bill at one point called the Croydon Bill that opened up the ability of schools, and it was because Croydon goes to 4th grade, that they could then open up their contracting with private schools and non-public schools. And we thought that was a great idea, and it probably was a great idea. But what happened to that small town is that they recently, and you probably heard in the news, recently, last year, had a school meeting where the budget was slashed tremendously. And it was slashed so much that their contract services with the local public high school was going to cost parents an extra $5,000 per kid to send them to the public school. And if they didn't pay that money, they had no public school option. And I guess that's one of the unintended consequences I'm really concerned about with this bill, is that if areas that have schools only to 7th grade or 6th grade, whatever, and the school board is supposed to contract services that provide an adequate education, that at least one of those contracts should be with the public school, because public schools are, as I said, the great equalizer. Everybody's accepted, everybody's given a adequate education. It's overseen by the DOE. As it stands right now, for example, some of the schools that are contracted are private schools that don't have wheelchair ramps, IDA accommodations. They don't provide transportation. People choose exclusive schools that are geared towards sports or geared towards, specialized programs that then students who would like to take those programs and parents who may well like to take those programs through the public education system can't get them because they don't have the money to pay the extra money for those schools. So I think, something has to give with all this. I truly think that it does go on, obviously, and people are in kind of limbo. They don't know, school districts don't know if they're supposed to do it or not. But I think it's really important to say that our public money, the public money that we pay as taxes locally, go to our local public schools and go to our local public school boards. And when they contract, they should be required to at least have one of those contract services with a public school, so that a parent never has to pay extra money to send their kids to a public school. And that's my main push with this, other than I think that schools also, if they contract with other schools, those schools should not be able to discriminate, and should be IDA accommodations, and should be able to accept kids, all kids from that particular school, not pick and choose which kids they're allowing into their school. And sometimes that's the issue with school choice, is it's not the choice of the parent, it's not the choice of the child, it's the choice of the school who sets the standards who they will accept. And so that's my issue. I'll accept any questions.
Any questions? Senator Lang?
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. I guess my question is when I look at this bill as amended in the House, it sets the control completely within a local school board's purview. So it can set the standards for any school it wants to tuition to. So it could set all of those standards in and of itself. It doesn't need legislative action to do that. It could require one of them be a public, and it could require that they be handicap accessible and those kind of things. So doesn't this bill already do what you're asking to do? It sets the controls locally, let the local district decide how to best educate the children rather than the state deciding?
Well, except that the state provides public funding, and the state as well as local funding, and that as our adequacy funding speaks to, it speaks to an adequate education, which is outlined in our RSAs for an adequate education, which public schools have to follow to the T. I mean, they can't discriminate using even the discrimination laws of New Hampshire versus the very basic ones from the federal government. They have rules about academic standards. They have rules about testing. They have oversight by the DOE. That's what public schools have. When local school boards have a burden, a duty to provide an adequate education for their children and within their purview, within their district. And if they choose to do these contracts, they're supposed to say that they're contracting with schools that will provide an adequate education. That has never been, just like this has never been tested, that's never been tested either. Whether if you contract with a school, local school board contracts with a non-public school that doesn't have, for example, even the physical ability to take students from the local school, whether that is actually under the law an adequate education. So I'm just saying that I think that this whole area needs to be tightened up, and that my major concern is that no school board should be allowed to set a cap which requires the parents, if they want to send their student to a public school that has career technical education, that has the wheelchair ramp, that has whatever, is required for a public school, that they don't have to pay extra money. And that's what happened in Croydon. They ended up, with the initial budget cut, they ended up that they would be required to spend a lot. You have 3 kids, you want to send them to public school, $5,000 a person, $15,000 a year out of their own pockets to do that. That shouldn't be allowed. There should be a public school option under all these schools that only go to a certain grade level.
Thank you.
Should mention that Croydon did call another meeting,
They did.
and the problem with the first meeting was that so few people showed up, which really tells you there is a meeting in town that talks about the school budget. Go.
And they do now.
Right, they do. And also, I think the Newport school is the public school is part of the Croydon contract.
It is, but even though it was under their contract when the school budget was cut so drastically, the amount of money per student was never enough to cover that, and that's why it was. But they did reverse that.
Right.
And I was at the meeting, and a few of the students that got up that spoke were so eloquent about why they wanted the public school option. I think that's
Yeah,
imperative.
That's what choice is all about.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dean Cascadent?
We should get new chairs in here. A little bit bigger ones, please. Dean Cascadden, Superintendent of SU 67 in Bow and Dunbarton. I have concerns with the bill, but in generally I'm going to speak in favor of it. And I want to tell you how it's operating in reality right now. About a decade ago, we were losing students in Bow, and we looked around, we had to cut teachers, and we said, we need more students. And we negotiated with Dunbarton, and they came into Bow as part of an area agreement. And so the area agreement is they have to send all their students to us. We have to accept all their students. Really good way to run a cooperative. you're going to hear the next bill. There's a lot of people want to talk about cooperatives. I won't comment on that now, but it's all tied together. And then Hooksett is right next to us also. Now, Hooksett does not have a high school. They have a K-8 big system. They tried to build a high school, but there was a protected rattlesnake that didn't allow them to use their sand pit to build a high school. And at the time, they had a pretty exclusive agreement with Manchester schools. That agreement ended. Hooksett pulled out of it and became a district of choice because they don't have a high school. The key about a district of choice is you have to have an anchor school. You have to have a school that will take your last student, the most difficult student to educate, the student with the most need, the student who needs to go someplace. And I don't see the words in here about an anchor school, but I think that's what the speaker before me was talking about. The local district has to have an option that says, you are going to take our student no matter what, because that is their responsibility as a public system to make sure that all their students are allowed. A little concerned with the any private school. Could a district come up with any private school that has such a low tuition that in essence, they're not giving an option to send a child to public school? They might. So that's a little concerning in there. But let me tell you how Hooksett works. So Hooksett now has 2 anchor schools. Students in Hooksett can go to either Pinkerton or Londonderry at the set rate for Pinkerton and Londonderry, which is, I think, around 14,000. A small number of Hooksett students come to Bow, and it's a $4,000 extra charge to the parents. Very small number. We try to run our high school at about 160 students. That's our absolute best capacity for us. That fills our school. It allows us to run our classes. And in the beginning, we were accepting 5 or 7 Hooksett students, and Dunbarton and Bow have had increased enrollment. So now we're down to about 1 or 2 per class. So we have an MOU with Hooksett, a memorandum of understanding with Hooksett. Presently, we're renegotiating it because it expired for 5 years. We hope to do it again. The MOU covers such thing as special education. The resident district is responsible for special education costs that go above and beyond a normal cost. So a run-of-the-mill IEP student who comes in, needs some IEP management, needs a little tutoring, covered under the tuition costs. Child comes in, needs an educational aid, needs a specialized piece of equipment. That cost goes directly billed back to the resident school district. And our base tuition is, like I said, $4,000 higher than their anchor schools. And so if a parent wants to come to us, they go to Hooksett and say, I'd like to come to SA67, I'd like to come to Bow High School. And the way Hooksett has chosen to do that is a lottery system, because we give them the number of students that we can accept, and then there's a total lottery. In the beginning, this was a little tough because we had siblings. One came to our school, one went to another school, but that's how Hooksett chose to do it. And then, like I said, we have 1 or 2 students a year. They come to our school, the parents pay. We've never had a parent not pay. However, it is legal. It's not great legal grounds, because we'd go to the parent and say, you owe us, $1,000 just excess tuition. Could the parent say to us, well, no, you're a public school, you have to accept my child? So we've just kind of lived with that. I mean, we'll ask forgiveness instead of permission, and that's been going on. And then the second one we've just gone into is where it's on my school board packet this Thursday for the town of Goshen. Goshen, of course, does not have a school. We have a couple kids in Bow whose parents are moving to Goshen, still work in Bow. They want the kids to continue in the high school. So we have a similar sort of agreement with Goshen that says, we'll accept these children, special ed's in there, everything. The interesting thing about Goshen, their anchor school is Sunapee. So there won't be any excess parental tuition because Sunapee is a higher cost per student than we are. So just wanted to give you that information. This is the way it's worked in practice. I think it's good. It's good for us. It helps us top off, but it does create inequities. I mean, until we solve the educational funding crisis and we stop funding education off of property tax and property value, which is unequally distributed, then we're going to have decisions like this. So in sum, I support it. It helps us. I think there are some caveats in place. Just a little concerned about that any private school. Could you end up like Croydon and have a tuition rate so low that it doesn't allow a parent a real choice?
Thank you. Questions from the committee members? A quick one.
Thank you for taking my question. So it sounds like the two issues are we need to put an anchor school provision in this, and that if the private school's tuition is so low, that's where the student will go. Is that what I understand?
Well, that was the concern, I think, of Croydon. I mean, could you get a private school that would say, yeah, our tuition is $10,000 per student and we'll educate your child? Because again, it may not have to have the same requirements as a public school. I'm not against it going to a private school. I mean, I'm not against that sort of thing. But I think the key thing is the anchor school. You have to have a school that the district negotiates with that will take every single one of their children, no matter what.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience who absolutely wants to say something on this? Representative Damon. If you could limit your testimony to 3 minutes, we would appreciate it.
I will, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I didn't sign in because I didn't think I was going to need to, but I'm Representative Hope Damon. I serve Sullivan District 8, 9 towns, including my hometown of Croydon. And the reason I stepped up to speak is because I wanted to clarify some of the Croydon experience. So we did, in fact, have a 53% cut in our school budget last spring. Our town is a K-4 school, and we tuition our children to other schools for 5th through 12th. Most of those students historically have gone to Newport, which is there's not a formal agreement, but they're our anchor school. They do take all our students who, are not going somewhere else. A fair number of our students go to Sunapee. That's become more parallel on the high school level, that it's almost equal, Sunapee and Newport. There's a Montessori school in Newport that the tuition now is around $10,000 a year, I think a tad less than that. There is a private Mount Royal Catholic-based school in Sunapee, about the same tuition as as the Montessori school. And there are students from Croydon who go to both of those schools, and then a few outliers that I won't get into the weeds on. When our school budget was cut, and it is correct that the school meeting was attended by a very small number of people, although not extraordinarily less than normal, as we all know, not every citizen who could participates in democracy, especially when they just think status quo will be maintained. There was nothing on the school meeting agenda last year that suggested anything dramatic would happen. We did, in fact, prevail and restore the school budget. So the original meeting, it was, I think, 20-14 vote to cut it. The petition special meeting, the vote was 377-2 to restore it in a town of less than 800 people. So the community rallied. But if that had not happened, and it could happen again, someone can make a motion from the floor, we're not an SB2 town. The school board was faced with figuring out how to use those very limited resources to try to provide an adequate education for children. What they were coming up with was to contract with organizations like Prenda or CHI, which are for-profit companies that run primarily online schooling programs. Prenda was the lead one. Their staff are termed guides. They don't call them teachers, and they shouldn't, because they're not. The only criteria for the guides, they need to be 18 years old and they need to be CPR certified. That's it. So the limited funding was meaning that the school board would be creating some kind of setting in Croydon, hire Prenda to have a guide, I would say essentially a babysitter, to be with the children while they did mostly online education programs. I don't think that meets the standards of public education that New Hampshire citizens deserve. I'm concerned that when people speak about private schools, many folks who haven't been in the thick of this think of private schools like our boarding schools, Proctor Academy, Kimball Union, St. Paul's, etc., that are indeed very expensive. But there are very inexpensive school-like programs that a town, if this bill goes through and doesn't have a requirement that there be a fully funded public school option for all students so that parents do not have to pay out of pocket any part of public school tuition, then a community can just set up something that is not meeting the standards of public education that our kids deserve. You can tell that I'm very passionate about this, and I will certainly take questions or connect with me outside of this if it would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, my question would just be, this had to do with, should parents be able to pay the difference in price if they want to send the child to another school? Do you support that or don't you?
I do not, because it creates further inequity in our educational system. It means that only the families who have the socioeconomic status to be able to pay the balance of tuition get to do that. And all the other families, which are most families, do not have that option. But at a minimum, I think this bill needs to clearly say, and I don't think it does clearly say, I'm on House Education, so I heard the original hearings on this. I don't think it clearly says that there will be a public school option that is fully funded.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee members? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time and work.
Okay, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 275. Now we move to House Bill 349, and the prime sponsor is Representative Ladd.
Good morning again, Madam Speaker and members of the Senate Education Committee. This is going to be a long one. I hope you have coffee and donuts for everybody here. It's going to be something else. I do have some materials I'd like to hand out to you. It's easier for me to get up. HB 349, which you have before you, is a very unique bill. And it deals with a situation in the state which is uniquely different and cannot be replicated anywhere else in the state of New Hampshire. And we'll go through and explain the rationale and the reasoning for that. But it has nothing to do with the disillusionment of a cooperative school district, has nothing to do with trying to modify cooperative school legislation. This is a bill that's unto itself, and I will try to explain that. I passed out to you several sheets. Also going to provide to your assistant here a sheet which will also be interesting to look at. You should have before you a sheet which I've written down and have some points 1 through 7 on the first side. And then you also have a photo of the school which we're talking about. This, you should have handed this out also, please. That for your record, I only have one sheet of that. Back in 1997, the New Hampshire General Court, this body that we're here today in, passed HB 436. That allowed the establishment of a special village district for the towns of Hebron and Bridgewater to construct, own, and maintain a public school facility with 3 elected commissioners to oversee the school facility and grounds. It's not a school district. It's a special village district, but it's very unique because it's a village district which also owns their own building. The village district, upon receiving this statutory authority back in 1997, then constructed and continues to own debt-free the Bridgewater Hebron Village School building, surrounding athletic fields and furnishings within it. It leases the school to the Newfound Area School District for $1 a year. So that's a really interesting agreement they have there. Teachers, staff, and curriculum management are provided by the Newfound Area School District. So we have an independent village district that owns its own school. HB 349 is designed to expand Bridgewater and Hebron's legal status as a village district and explore over a 4-year period the establishment of a 3-town special purpose school district. This is, again, a very unique situation as Bridgewater and Hebron is the only village district that owns its own district, but is not a school district. The goal of this bill is to reconfigure and structure the village district as a K through 8 school district. It's not K through 8 right now. It serves lower grades than that, K through 6, I believe, or 5. They have a school that is ready to be added on to at a minimal cost. And they currently, I would say one of the primary reasons for this bill coming forward to you is the folks in Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton are primarily concerned about the academic achievement of their kids. They want the best opportunity they can for those children. It is estimated that a reduction in the middle school expenses coupled with SAU 4 gains in tuition and administrative revenue by the special village district also becoming a school district would result in little to no fiscal impact to SAU 4.
Excuse me for a second. You may not stand. You have to be out in the lobby if there is no seating. Sorry.
Okay, I'll continue. I live in Haverhill and I drive across from the Connecticut River to Plymouth every day on Route 25. I go through on that trip up in the Wentworth, Rumney area I go through Haverhill, Warren, then Wentworth and Rumney and on into Plymouth. I travel through part of the area that these students are going to go to Newfound School District for a high school. They have to, and they're in the extreme northwest corner of the Newfound School District. They travel up and over and down through the same path that I take. I just think every morning about these students. They're traveling through the Pemmy Baker School District, which is tuitions their kids to Plymouth. They're traveling up through, down on a bus to attend the high school and middle school. Some, that's a 2.5-hour ride total per day. Kids are riding this bus. It's just out of whack. And so what we got to do is reconfigure something here where we offer the opportunity to this village district to become a school district as well. They then have the option tuition to Newfound if they care to, or in fact to Plymouth. And for some students, Plymouth would be a lot shorter to go to and provide basically the same opportunities that you can find in either high school. Now, on the bottom there, you'll see a number 7. I'm going to try to be quick because I know you're loaded with people who want to talk on this. The firm of Wadley, Starr, and Peters, that's a Manchester legal firm here, have stated that HB 349 applies to a local situation where a separate municipality owns the building in which children are educated. It is not capable of repetition or replication elsewhere in the state and represents a truly unique set of facts. Lastly, in a letter received by the Education Committee, and by the way, when we had that online on this bill, we had 256 people testifying in support and 4 opposed, and nobody neutral. We had a letter given to us, and I see Mr. Berry here, related to Virginia Berry, who was our former Commissioner of Education, and that's attached, you'll have that, who is strongly in support of this bill. I am strongly in support of it because I've seen the folks in these 3 communities speak out. I've seen the select board commissioners all in support, and I don't see any kind of loss to the SAU. Bridgewater owns this facility. They own it. And for $1 a year, that's quite a deal. And they also have to pay for the maintenance of that building. So I feel the people of Bridgewater and Hebron have done their share. Now they're looking at trying, how can I better improve the achievement of our students and keep some of the students off the buses so long? And this is how they're responding to that. And I think it's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Senator
Frequent questioner
Fenton.
today. I apologize. Thank you for taking my question. So just define to me what a special village district is.
That's defined in statute.
Okay.
And I handed the one copy to your assistant there, and you can see the legislation that was approved by statute, as occurred here in my own town of Woodsville. By statute, they were given the authority to have their own highway commissioner in Woodsville by statute here. And although the town of Haverhill also had a highway department, this legislature has done this uniquely for several. That was a municipality issue with roads and fire, and have their own road agent in a town, overall town. This right here is another statutory portion of our law, which was set back in 1997, which authorized this village, this area, this small community to have their own village district with their own locally elected commissioners to operate their municipality, just like they operate any other municipality or town or fire district in this state.
One more quick one.
Well,
Sorry. Thank you again for taking my question. So you kind of alluded to it. How many special districts are there in New Hampshire? Do you know?
Village districts?
Yes. One. This. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. No more.
You're welcome.
Senator Lang?
Thank you. Can you speak to timelines? I'm a little concerned as I read the bill on line 15 of the first page. It talks about the 2023 annual meeting, which for most towns are gone. We've already had it, so there can't be a vote on the 2023 annual meeting. And then it talks about other such annual meetings determined by the three towns, and the effect would be the year after if that.
Senator,
annual
I
meeting-
think that without my going through that, you have folks which will be able to better answer that are members of that community and are very familiar with that, along with the legal people that can help wade through
All right.
that.
I'll hold my question.
Senator Prentice?
Thank you, Senator Ward. Good to see you as always, Representative Ladd. So just can you help me out with the financial part of this. You talked about that it should not, this shouldn't cost any more money than it already, this wouldn't be a greater financial burden to the towns?
I tried to speak to it in this bill here, where if they're tuitioned into the district, current district, there shouldn't be, seeing that when in fact this becomes a school district, they're not looking at having to recoup some of their assets, which are part of the Newfound. They're saying, let that be. In fact, even the teachers which are working in the present Bridgewater School, they're saying, we'll rehire all those people and ask them to stay because we feel they're doing a wonderful job. So there is also people that have been on the finance committee, can answer all the finance issues right here behind me. So I think rather than taking all that time right now, I think you hold that off, and Mr. Ludi and others can address those.
Okay, I just saw there was an FN with this and you had talked a little bit about it. I just wanted to clarify. So
Yeah.
sounds like I'll have some other opportunities.
You will, yeah.
Thank you.
I hope your drive from Lebanon was a good one today.
Thank you, Representative Ladd.
An old Woodsville resident here.
Yeah, we're.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Terry Murphy? And again, if you can try to keep your testimony to 3 minutes, that would be great, because
see
a
what I
lot
can
of
do.
people wanted to speak.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and committee members. My name is Terry Murphy, and I support the HB 349 bill. I'm a selectman from the town of Bridgewater, serving since 1977. I'm a commissioner on the Bridgewater Hebron Village District since its inception in 1999. I was a faculty member at Plymouth State University for 45 years and its outreach programs for over 10 years, assisting the Pemmy Baker School District for its financial and student management systems. In full disclosure, my spouse is Virginia Barry, the former New Hampshire commissioner, and I seek her counsel on experience on educational issues for good reason. I also have communicated with our Bridgewater school members about this matter. I'm not going to go through the background. I'm going to skip over to, because that's, the village district was separated in one sense, and we built the village district, which allowed us to turn around and build a school building when things were crowded in the overcrowding of this SAU 4. And we spent the money to turn around and build a building, and we've turned around and leased that building back for $1 a year for the last 22 years. And the custodial services, everything else, maintenance, repair, capital upgrades are all a responsibility of Bridgewater and Hebron. The bill is designed to expand on our legal status as a village district and explore over a 4-year period. But the likelihood of that 4-year period is remote. It most likely will be a 2-year period. This multi-process step is the first step to hold a vote in Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton to determine if our citizens want to establish a K-8 SAU. Our vision is to improve the educational outcomes for our children with innovative alternatives to a traditional middle school. Our goal is to reconfigure the village district to K-8. Studies have shown that the fewer number of transitions children make before high school, the greater the improved student performance. And in fact, all 7 towns in the Pemby-Baker use the K-8 model. Anyways, expanding the Bridgewater Hebron School education performance is consistently performed in the top 20 percentile in the state for math and English. Reconfiguring to a K-8 allows us to continue to perform high academic standards with a coherent curriculum, effective instruction, strong leadership, and a results-based accounting and sound discipline through the 8th grade. It would allow more effective local control and better manage educational costs and give parents an innovative alternative traditional model. Why now? Today, parents are more engaged in their educational outcomes. There's a growing trend towards alternative educational processes in the state. And in our local case, a trend towards the public K-8 model. Given this climate, the bill gives the authority and time to thoughtfully think this through. It can't be rushed. We don't want to disrupt any child's education. We would stay closely aligned and work cooperatively with the Newfound Area School District to support quality education for children. We would support space-based reciprocal enrollments for K-8 by inviting students from the other towns to attend. We would offer parents a choice between traditional middle school and a K-8 program. We would seek a cooperative relationship with SAU for tuition, service agreements, all which will mitigate costs to the school district. This bill gives us an option to create our own school district and reconfigure to K-8. We have up to 4 years in the bill to research and determine if it's the best choice. However, we believe that the actual timeline is achievable in 2 years, and our end, the voters will decide. House Bill 349 provides a narrow, singular fix that would realign us with the state public education model. The bill is a turnkey solution, and our final education plan must be approved by the Board of Education. Finally, we as citizens have a responsibility to provide for children's public education. This bill provides, and we believe improves that opportunity. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Derry Riddle.
Good morning, Senators. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of House Bill 349. My name is Derry Riddle. I'm a resident of Hebron, and I've been an elected commissioner of the Bridgewater Hebron Village District since its inception about 25 years ago, where I've had the privilege of being part of the construction and facility management of our local Bridgewater Hebron Village School. I was the first president of the PTO there, which includes parents from various towns throughout the school district. I still have connections to the organization and have communicated information to them about this bill. I have volunteered in various capacities at this school, plus others throughout the Newfound Area School District. One of my sons attended the school, and recently my grandsons have been students there, where they've thrived in a nurturing atmosphere supported by caring teachers, staff, parents, and community members. I've been on numerous committees addressing public kindergarten, technology, administrative searches, the vision and mission of the school district, the greenhouse at our school, and the building and facilities needs of the Newfound Area schools. With your support of House Bill 349, we have a unique and exciting opportunity to create a positive K-8 learning environment for our local students. Madam Chair, May I please use my remaining time to read into the record a letter from the former New Hampshire Education Commissioner, Virginia Barry, who is unable to attend today?
Certainly.
Thank you. Dear Chairman Ward, I strongly support the establishment of a special purpose school district as proposed by the towns of Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton. As the former Commissioner of Education for the state of New Hampshire from 2009 to 2017, I had the pleasure of visiting many excellent schools in our state. New Hampshire has much to be proud of with its continued ranking in the nation's top 5 states for educational success. As Commissioner, I was often asked to explain our success to the public. Of course, we have many outstanding teachers and leaders committed to our children, families, and communities. However, there was another critical factor in our state's national achievements. The movement of school choice options available to children through bipartisan leadership has helped define our state as one that supports parent choice. New Hampshire is one of the only states that supports traditional public schools, public charter schools, public magnet schools, private schools, online academies, and homeschooling. All of these choices are available to families to choose what is in the best interest of their child's needs, family values, and sustainable communities. New Hampshire places great value on our small towns and their role in the stability critical to the economic health of our state. Our residents know that our governmental structure cares what they have to say. Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton have demonstrated their deep devotion to quality education and the desire to have a school that reflects an understanding of the importance of family values in their schools. A sense of pride and conservation of small town togetherness and daily life. The school these community members envision is another example of choice in our state, with a serious commitment to a sense of the future and everyday safety and fellowship so needed in our society. This perseverance is especially evident when in 1999, the communities of Bridgewater and Hebron joined to construct a modern school building open to all towns in the Newfound Area School District. The building was separate from their existing cooperative school district obligations, and since 2000, the towns leased the facility to the school district for $1 per year. The maintenance and building upgrade costs are the sole responsibilities of the Bridgewater Hebron Village District. Concurrently, the facility is open to many local agencies for community activities to support extracurricular sports and boys and girls community clubs. The school presently houses a pre-K, full-day kindergarten program, and the 1st through 5th grades. Children from other towns in the cooperative school district constitute 55% of the Bridgewater Hebron school enrollment. The proposed legislation will not impact other communities' enrollment if the K-8 expansion is approved. Fiscal constraints in the SAU-4 prevent the adoption of this enhanced program configuration. Recent research on pre-K and K-8 school configuration has continued to grow, focusing on the importance of children's social emotional needs in our current society. Intuitive leaders in our state might consider looking at the multiple benefits for K-8 students in the same school setting. The benefits include improved student social emotional skills, positive attitudes about self and others, connection to school and town, academic performance, and reduced conduct problems and emotional distress. A school with community support and a belief that citizens own the school with an intense commitment to success and a healthy mindset is the best we can offer our children. The proposal seeks to promote a community K-8 school to enhance learning and social emotional competence based on the 3 towns' choices to support these critical years of development. A K-8 school program has proven to improve academic performance and greater community involvement when parents' choice is acknowledged. In closing, this proposal supports the spirit of New Hampshire's history, encouraging choice, community connectedness, and success for all citizens. I urge the Senate Education Committee to consider this forward-thinking proposal. The potential outcomes of success for the students and recognition of the people's desire to protect and educate their children only strengthen our state. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts on this worthy proposal. Despite the challenges facing our nation, I believe that New Hampshire will continue to lead the country in educational success and promote and safeguard our children and communities. Respectfully submitted, Virginia M. Barry, PhD. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I call John Resigno. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is John Racino. I am the Chair of the Select Board of the Town of Groton. I am here to speak enthusiastically in support of the bill. With my fellow Selectman Tony Albert, together we represent and serve over 569 Groton citizens. I have met and communicated with our Groton school representatives on several occasions to discuss the merit of this bill. I've also discussed the bill at 2 separate public hearings. Groton is a small, tight-knit rural community spanning over 40 square miles in the extreme northern end of a 7-town Newfound area school district. We're situated between Rumney and Hebron and just about equal distance from the 2 large school districts headquartered in Bristol and Plymouth. We have 48 students enrolled in the Newfound School Area District K-12 system. 22 of those students attend the exceptional K-5 Bridgewater Hebron School Village School. The Village School education performance is outstanding and ranked among the top K-5 schools in the state. The teachers and staff are excellent, and our kids thrive in the school. Parent involvement is high across the system. Our kids and students love this school. I am very excited about this bill, as I feel it will set our children up for continued success. As a father myself, I understand the importance of stability in the educational system. In our case, smaller might be better. Establishing a 3-town school district and reconfiguring to K-8 will allow for the following: more effective local control, a stronger link between parent and the school system, less transition for the students, an expanded village school, expand the village school success proven educational model for an additional 3 years through K-8. Our parents are becoming more involved in education for their children. And as you know, there's a growing trend towards public educational alternatives. In our case, the trend towards the K-8 model. Smaller might also be better. We're situated on the far edge of a large school district. Our kids spend several hours on the bus each day as they pass the village school on their way to the middle school in Bristol. Establishing a 3-town school district and reconfiguring through K-8 will alleviate this challenge for our kids. I also support this bill because it gives us time to thoroughly engage with our citizens and to thoughtfully think through the reconfiguration process. I take seriously our responsibility to provide for our children's education, and this bill is unique and an innovative opportunity to do just that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none. Thank you. For Patrick Moriarty. Patrick Moriarty.
Patrick Moriarty?
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for having me, and I have great respect for all you do and the work you put in on education is so important. My name is Patrick Moriarty. I'm a member of the Hebron Select Board for 10 years, and I'm here along with our other Select Board members who are unfortunately out in the hallway, Rich James and Paul Hazelton, to represent the town of Hebron in support of this bill. I grew up in a low-income household. My dad was a POW and a disabled veteran. I lived in public housing and I attended public schools, and I'm a strong advocate for public schools and consider the education provided critical to the success of the students, the state, and even our country. My public education led me to Northeastern University, where I graduated with honors, and after military service, I completed a master's degree in finance. For the past 20 years, I've been a trustee of the Mayhew Program, I hope you're aware of, an important nonprofit in the state that serves disadvantaged youth, and I'm now the treasurer of the Mayhew Foundation program. So I work daily on youth development in the state of New Hampshire. I did participate also in the previous withdrawal study committee, which you may hear about, was held in 2015. So I did participate in that. The people of Hebron are aware of this proposed legislation and are in favor. Last year, we held a public hearing to explain and discuss the issues. Over 100 people attended the meeting. We ran out of chairs actually in the church basement where we held them. And the minutes were kept and the minutes were posted, so the people are aware of the issues. Since then, we've published numerous articles and notices on our website, both in January, February, March. The people of Bridgewater and Hebron paid for the school that we use now and maintain it on an annual basis. They take great pride in the school as an important part of our community. The school is our emergency shelter. Our police protect it, visit for safety checks, run the bike safety program. We provide these services as well as the athletic fields without any outside financial support. The townspeople understand this proposal to establish our own school district and reconfigure to a K-8 model will require additional costs. And we fully intend to form a cooperative relationship with SAU for high school sports and other activities. Our current school district, SAU 4, covers 225 square miles over 7 towns. And it's a very difficult SAU to manage with that size, space, and distance. And it's hard for the superintendent and other people to balance classroom size when children have to be bused. And I think you heard from the Groton representative, and the Groton children are sometimes 2 hours of school bus riding. And as I said, the far side of Groton is more than an hour drive from the other schools. Our 3 towns included here lie north in the district and border Plymouth, Dorchester, and Rumney. The Plymouth School District runs fully on the K-8 model for these reasons of time, space, and distance. The other 4 towns in SAU 4 lie west to east along State Route 104 from Danbury to New Hampton, if you're familiar with that area. This is a convenient break for consolidation of classes in one main elementary school, which is something the district has a committee is now studying, a centralized education. And I think the remaining 4 towns, if we were to withdraw, would be well suited for consolidation as they all lie, and the schools lie, and the children lie on the state road, which is maintained and policed and you know, well done. Finally, our goal here is to improve educational outcomes for our children. This bill allows for greater local focus on quality education, and by establishing our own 3-town school district and reconfiguring to a K-8, it allows parents a choice between a traditional middle school and a K-8 program. And I hope you will vote in favor of this important legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Senator General.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty, for
You're
being
welcome.
here. I mean, personally, I think this is an awesome thing to do. I really do. The kids are already there. I mean, I guess the question would be, the teachers that are there, are they flexible enough where they could actually take on other grades, or you see yourself as, or the school district hiring more teachers?
I'm probably not the best one to answer that question. I mean, I am not an educator, so the difference in quality and ability from K-5, where it is now, to K-8, I would assume there'll be some new teachers. I think
Okay,
everybody who's there really likes the school, has a great sense and feel. And I think the teachers like it, the parents like it. It gets very high scores. So that, I think, is solid, but it may take a few more to handle middle. It is physically can handle the middle school, because we have 2 heating systems and a separate wing. Terry knows the building very well, and separate bathrooms, so you could have older kids separated enough from younger kids, you know, so you don't get those issues happening. So, but I think maybe you would need a few more teachers.
so follow up.
Follow up.
So, I mean, seriously, it seems like a no-brainer. So, but if I were to ask you, what would keep you up at night? What would give you heartburn about this?
I think there's details to work out. I think it can work. I have confidence in the people, but I think we'd have to still work with the SAU. I want to do it in a cooperative, friendly manner that helps everybody. So that would be the issue, whether people are resistant or stubborn, or, you know, status quo is what they prefer. So there's issues to deal with, but like everything else, if we all work together, we can solve those problems.
Good.
Senator
Thank you.
Prentice.
Thank you, Chair Ward, and thank you for joining us this morning. I just pulled up, so I'm just trying to listen to all the conversations and the testimony this morning and sort out the expansion and the potential financial aspects of this, both for the current SAU and this expansion. You know, there's one of the things that got my attention, and I haven't really been able to get to it yet or hear it, is it says that the select board warns that expanding the Bridgewater Hebron Village School to accommodate K through 8 classes comes with costs that would require hiring more teachers and support staff. And then it talks about, we've already heard about the tuition agreements and agreements for sports, extracurricular activities, and high school classes. So do we know where those costs are? I mean, it sounds like there was a study committee. Now it sounds like there was a study committee. Do we have the current costs for what this will be for each of the towns?
No, not yet. I mean, we'll have to work that out. I think when we told the people, we told them the expectation would be there would be some cost increase. I think it's just lack of efficiencies, maybe, you know. And you want to provide all the programs that the children want besides education, but sports, music, and so on. So we just didn't want to present it to the people as a cost savings issue, because it's not. And I don't want to mislead people that it will probably cost some money. And if we work together, I think we can minimize that impact.
Follow up?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I understand it's not always about the cost. And we've heard a lot of testimony already, and I've received a lot of emails about, you know, the educational side of this and that impact, which is granted very important, but I believe it's our duty to ask these kinds of questions and try to get to that. So I hear what you're saying. I feel it's my responsibility to just follow up. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Fine. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all.
Next, we have Bill Luty.
Madam Chair, committee members, good morning. My name is Bill Luty. I'm a retired naval officer from Hebron, and I too support this bill. I grew up right here in Concord, where my father was a teacher and running coach at Concord High School. I attended Bishop Brady High School a very long time ago. And I recently served on Brady's Principal's Academic Advisory Council for the past 5 years, too, as chair. I volunteer my time in our local drug prevention community with my town's selectmen on these education issues, and I'm a member of the Governor's State Veterans Advisory Council. The Bridgewater Hebron Village District Commissioners have asked their legal advisor for an opinion on whether HB 349 constitutes a lawful act of the legislature and how the bill relates to cooperative withdrawal statutes. The opinion was written by Mr. Dean Eggert, a respected and well-known education attorney with over 40 years of experience. Mr. Eggert advises dozens of school districts throughout the state. And I've been asked by the commissioners to read his brief letter into the record. And I have 5 copies for committee members, along with a frequently asked questions handout that was prepared for you by Mr. Eggert. I'm not an attorney, so if you have questions, I would be happy to collect them and ask Mr. Eggert to provide answers beyond which I can provide answers. So with permission, I'd like to read his letter. It'll take about 2 minutes.
Please.
Dear Mr. Murphy, you asked us to review House Bill 349, an act relative to a special purpose school district for Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton. In particular, you have asked us to opine on whether the bill constitutes a lawful act of the legislature. In our opinion, the answer is yes, and we reach that opinion for the following 3 reasons. First, the legislature retains the authority over the formation of school districts. New Hampshire is not a home rule state. Moreover, while school districts are a separate corporate entity, they serve as a subdivision of the state. School districts, like counties and towns, are political subdivisions of the state made for the convenient administration of government. As a result, the legislature has exercised its authority over the span of its history to create school districts through enabling legislation. In the past 30 years, the legislature has self-regulated that authority to create and establish school districts by voluntarily subordinating its authority to local control. In other words, the legislature has passed enabling legislation, but has made the adoption of such subject to the will of the citizens in the local towns, cities, or school districts. For example, recently the legislature adopted a bill with regard to the Manchester School District, authorizing certain charter amendments and the establishment of further independence on the part of the school district. However, that legislation was contingent upon adoption by the local legislative body. This bill, HB 349, follows that model, and if passed, is a lawful exercise of the general court's legislative authority, but with due deference to the local decision of the voters. 2, the bill repairs a unique flaw in the cooperative withdrawal statutes. In this case, the Bridgewater Hebron Village District owns the school attended by students in the Bridgewater Hebron Groton area. This is a truly unique fact which deviates substantially from the norm. The adoption of this bill provides a pathway for the Bridgewater Hebron Groton towns to normalize the relationship with the village district and create their own district, which more aligns with the fact that the ownership of the building in which the children are educated reposes within the local community. The general court is well aware of the challenges presented by the withdrawal provisions of cooperative school districts. While one can argue on either side of the issue in regard to the correct manner in which to approach withdrawal, on these facts, there is little or no doubt that the local act of the legislature will provide an opportunity to cure a model which deviates from the norm. 3, as a local act, this bill does not modify the general provisions pertaining to other cooperative school districts. At first blush, there may be reluctance on the part of some to adopt this bill due to the fact that it creates a more nuanced withdrawal process. However, this bill applies to a local situation where a separate municipality owns the building in which the children are educated. It is not capable of repetition and represents a truly unique set of facts. For the reasons set forth above, it is our opinion that this local legislation is consistent with the legislature's authority. Very truly yours, Dean B. Eggert.
Thank you. Questions from the committee members? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Jennifer La Rochelle.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Honorable members of the committee, thank you for listening to testimony. My name is Jennifer La Rochelle, and I am here in support of House Bill 349. I'm an elected member of the School Budget Committee representing Hebron and am the committee's vice chair. I attend monthly meetings, the annual deliberative session, and have attended school board meetings. I have communicated with my school board rep about our vision and recently attended a parent meeting at our school with the superintendent. I graduated from the University of New Hampshire with a BA in psychology, followed by a master's in reading and writing. And I also have my certificate of advanced graduate study from New England College in educational leadership. I taught for 25 years in the Newfound Area School District, and my son attended the Bridgewater Hebron School. I'm here today to talk about an opportunity for our children, our parents, and our teachers. In my years in the classroom, I've seen tremendous changes. The impact that comes from those changes has affected our children in ways that are sometimes visible and sometimes hidden. The CDC reported from 2016 to 2020, 5.8 million students were diagnosed with anxiety, and another 2.7 million were diagnosed with depression. Research suggests that the K-8 model helps to combat the struggles our children face. Passage of this bill is critical to the opportunities we wish to provide our children, our families, and our teachers. Sixth grade students are at a vulnerable time. Switching schools creates increased stress and anxiety. And as evidenced by a Harvard study, reading and writing scores decline when students enter middle school. The K-8 model offers no such transition. Instead, children remain in a nurturing, familiar environment where they can grow, continue to grow, both academically and socially. Warranted or not, middle school doesn't have a great reputation, which keeps a lot of parents away. But parents are important. Purdue University writes, when parents are involved, students get better grades and score higher on standardized tests. What's more, children of involved parents have better attendance records, drop out less often, have higher aspirations, and more positive attitudes toward school and homework. I think it is important to address the opportunity passage of this bill will afford our teachers. Teachers are the core of our educational system, and as such should be given the opportunity to use their knowledge and creativity to be decision makers. This bill allows teachers and the community to think differently about education, from organization to professional development and curriculum. Should this bill pass and be signed by the governor, I would look forward to working alongside my former colleagues and the community to be innovative and make the most of this opportunity. Fewer transitions, continued parental engagement, and teacher-led innovation indicate to me that the K-8 model is good for our children, our families, and our teachers. The Bridgewater Hebron School has a 20-plus year history of providing strong educational opportunities for students and strong parental involvement. House Bill 349 grants us the opportunity to expand that tradition for our community and our families through 8th grade. I ask that you help us guide our students by supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Senator Genro.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for taking my question. We've heard a lot this morning already from the selectmen, from the budget committees, teachers, attorneys. What is the pulse? And I'm assuming it's a very positive one for the parents, that they're very much for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think when the record supports the fact, is supported by the fact that we had 256 in favor of this bill in the House and 4 opposed. You've heard about hundreds of people showing up for open meetings. At the most recent meeting that I was at the school, there were a small number of parents who expressed questions and concerns, some of which we couldn't answer because we aren't at that step in the process yet. But there seemed to be, in my opinion, an overwhelming desire to explore this possibility for our kids.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Eric Piper.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. My name is Eric Piper, and I'm an elected Budget Committee representative from Bridgewater. I just completed my 4th budget cycle and have 2 years remaining on my current term. Beyond attending Budget Committee meetings and annual deliberative sessions, I follow and attend school board and building hearing sessions. In my professional life, I have a master's in finance and have spent the last 30 years in budgeting and profit center growth for several Fortune 100 companies. I'm here testifying in favor of this bill because I believe it brings new educational options to the newfound area, its students, and it can do so without increasing costs to the newfound area school district. I've communicated my opinion to our school board representative. In terms of potential finances, overall, Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton account for approximately 15% of the student body, and the corresponding budget contribution is roughly the same amount. By creating our own district, expenses for elementary school would probably be static. Any reduction in middle school revenue could be more than offset with gains in tuition and administrative service agreement revenue. This scenario would result in little or no financial impact to the district. So the potential exists for the Newfound Area District to benefit from the new revenue generation by way of these tuition and service agreements. While we would hope to continue our relationship with the SAU4, ultimately a tuition agreement would largely be their decision, but we believe that it would be mutually beneficial. This bill should not adversely affect district jobs or teachers. If anything, this bill should create jobs, not reduce them. An expanded Bridgewater Hebron Groton school will need to hire several additional teachers for the 6th through 8th grades. The legislation also contains a provision for potentially offering current teachers and staff a transfer of pay and benefits. As communities, we understand and accept that creating our own district will likely increase our town's education costs. We understand that there are also many other components to running a school district beyond the building and cost concerns. So while from a facilities perspective, we've operated and maintained the school for 22 years, we also have many citizens that have been involved in all aspects of the school districts, ranging from the school board to the budget members to teachers and staff, including a former New Hampshire State Commissioner of Education. We have a very deep pool to draw from. When required, we would seek to outsource functions that would require special expertise or need economies of scale. This is part of why the bill contains a 4-year planning contingency. Our process needs to be very thoughtful and considered. In summary, we hope that the bill will not negatively impact the SAU4. It will increase educational options, and it will meet the long-delayed desires of citizens and parents of our towns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Senator Lang.
I'm just going to speak to process and procedure. So so can you walk me through how you envision the voting process that has to occur? What has to happen in the towns? I'm a little concerned about the timeline that's outlined in this bill, so I'm trying to allay those concerns.
Sure, and there may be people, I'll give it a best shot. Some of this is interpretive on my part, but, and there may be people following me who can better answer that, but we certainly, we would certainly try, or the perception among the core group of people we've talked to is we would try to vote and form a study committee of some sort to look into more detail into the financial aspects and then the timeline aspects and what the downstream effects would be. We'd want to start engagement with either SAU4 or the Plymouth School District to look at the opportunities that we would have in both cases. At that point, I think we would have something that would be tangible and substantive enough to bring to our citizens. And with any luck, by the next, and this is purely my opinion, with any luck, by the next annual town meetings, which would be March to May, we have different meetings for different towns, March to May of next year. And if that worked, the citizens would either vote for or against it. As Jennifer said, I think there's overwhelming support in our communities for this. It's a unique opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity for us. So we would look at it that way. Following that, we would really fall into sort of a regular process of how do you separate without adversely affecting any students, without adversely affecting teachers. Again, this has to be deliberate, cautious, and all parties need to have their concerns addressed. So a timeline, you know, it could be done within 2 years, 3 years, but there are always unforeseen circumstances. I mean, something dramatic could happen. And by boxing us into a tighter time frame, let me give you a crazy what if. What do you do? Because an extended timeline could work for both parties. What if something happened to one of the schools in the current SAU4, a fire? All of a sudden, there's a shortage of, and I realize this is kind of an extreme example, but there's a shortage of space. Well, if we're boxed into an absolute withdrawal in a 2-year time frame, there's no contingency on either side. I mean, we're excited about this opportunity. We want to move forward. We don't want to delay it. On the flip side, we want to be very careful, and we want to have as much latitude as we can without adversely affecting any party. Does that help? I
Just follow
may
up
be a
with one question.
long-winded way of
Follow. So I guess my question is this, is that the goal would be to make the vote as soon as practicable to do it. And then from that, in that voting process, you may establish a timeline for completion of the implementation.
That would be the ideal scenario, to bring the vote as soon as we had a cogent plan together. And we want to be given enough time to look at that. There are a lot of questions involved in this. And we're dealing with young people's lives and a potential effect. So we want to be cautious and careful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you take another? I hear another question here.
Hopefully you'll be able to answer it. Mr. Racino said that there are 48 students in the school now. What has that been? Has it been pretty consistent, 48? Has there been an increase? Has there been a decrease in the student population? And it's just more of a curiosity question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we follow the general trend lines of decreasing student population. The entire district is decreasing at about 1% per year. So I think if you extrapolate that, the elementary schools are tough because they peak and valley, and but it has been a pretty consistent number. That's 48 kids, by the way, just from Groton going into the entire school district. But I think that I think it was mentioned previously that we have an expansion capability. So if we created a K through 8, which would be the only one in the region, we would certainly be open to having students from other towns come in. I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity to offer a different kind of educational package while maintaining the current one, which is really what breeds that excitement in our towns. It's really something unique and different we can bring to the newfound area.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tracy Steenbergen? I have to remind, well, quite a few people here who still like to speak, so keep it down to 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Steenbergen, and I'm here to support House Bill 349. I have always lived in Hebron and have been involved in Hebron's town government for 32 years as town treasurer, the town's bookkeeper, and now as town clerk. More importantly, I'm here today not as a town official, but as a grandmother helping to raise her 9-year-old grandson. My grandson Benjamin came to live with my husband and me in April of 2022. Ben's mother, my son's former partner, was experiencing a family crisis. Due to the shortage of affordable housing, Ben's mother has been unable to locate permanent housing. My husband and I offered to have Ben live with us. Ben attended summer school at the Bridgewater Hebron Village School last July and August and was enrolled in 3rd grade there at the beginning of the school year. Ben has some learning disabilities, particularly reading, and has been diagnosed with autism. Before he came to live with us, Ben was enrolled in a larger school district in the southern part of the state and never been in a mainstream classroom. At the Bridgewater Hebron Village School, Ben is in a 3rd grade classroom with his peers and is thriving in the small classroom setting. In large classroom situations, Ben is overwhelmed and confused by all the stimulation. Ben would benefit enormously by being able to remain in a small classroom setting for as long as he possibly can. He has gained a strong awareness of school community and the feeling of belonging being at the Bridgewater Hebron Village School. In fact, he received a Growth Mindset Award last fall and was so proud when he brought the award home to show everyone. The adage, "It takes a village to raise a child," is true in this situation. The small school village environment within the Bridgewater Hebron Village District has helped Benjamin by providing him with the education he needs in a warm, nurturing, and village environment. I ask the committee to help Benjamin and others to continue to grow emotionally and academically in this small setting for as long as they can by allowing Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton to form our own school district and reconfigure our school to a K-8 model. Thank you to the committee for listening to my testimony, for conducting this hearing, and considering Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton's request.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you.
questions from the committee members? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Smith?
Good morning. I'll keep this short and sweet. My name is Sarah Smith. I'm a Groton resident. I work for the town of Groton, but more importantly, I'm here today as a parent. I fully support House Bill 349 for many reasons. My son Caleb attended Bridgewater Hebron Village School, Newfound Memorial Middle School, and Newfound Regional High School, and graduated from there in 2022. Prior to attending the Newfound Area School District, we lived about 45 minutes south and attended a school district there. We liked the school district from elementary school, but we had some concerns about the upper grade level due to the schools having troubles getting accreditation. As a parent wanting my child to receive the best education he could, this was a huge concern for me. Life happened, we found ourselves living in Groton, and I transferred Caleb out of his current school into the Bridgewater Hebron Village School District. As with any transfer, we had concerns about the education he would receive, how the teachers would be, and making new friends and feeling supported. It didn't take long at Bridgewater Hebron School to relieve us of these concerns, especially the concern about him receiving the best education he could. This is where Caleb received the best education, where he felt the most comfortable, where he made some of his best friends, and felt the most supported by our incredible teachers and staff. One of the main reasons I support this bill is that, as I did with Caleb, I want all students to receive a better education. I feel Caleb would have benefited even more from staying with the Bridgewater Hebron Village School District longer. K-8 models have been proven to be beneficial and have many advantages. Currently, our students leave the Bridgewater Hebron School after 5th grade, and they go to the middle school from 6th to 8th grade. A K-8 model would eliminate the transition and allow them to stay where they're more comfortable for a longer period of time. The age they attend middle school is an awkward time for these kids. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, they're going through many changes. When they leave Bridgewater Hebron Village School, they're transitioning from being the older students in the school to the younger students in the middle school. All of this can be tough on the kids and lead to challenges. We live in a rural community, and Bridgewater Hebron Village School is closer to our town than the middle school and the high school is. Our Groton students are on the bus for over an hour to the middle school and even longer to the high school, just one way. This is too long for kids grades K-8 to be on a bus. Creating a K-8 would eliminate the extra time on the bus. Then when they're older and in the high school and better to handle the longer ride. Caleb would also benefited from being able to choose which high school he attended. There are high schools closer to Groton. In high school, our kids get their licenses, which is a very scary time for us parents, especially where we live. We also have the weather, which is a big concern. If he were able to choose the high school he attended, he would have been able to choose one that was half the time, 15 minutes, for him driving himself versus a half an hour. So that would have been less time in the car, less travel time, less gas money, and less time worrying during that bad weather. Caleb doesn't play sports, but he jumped quickly into the workforce. He would travel from school to work each day. If he could have chosen a high school in the town where he works, that would have also eliminated it and been more convenient and saved time on travel. I no longer have a child in the school district, but I'm still advocating for all of the other children. We had an amazing experience at Bridgewater Hebron Village School, and I wish the K-8 model was in effect when Caleb was in school. Thank you for listening, and I respectfully urge you to pass the bill so all of the students can receive the best education.
Thank you very much. Any questions from committee members?
Thank you.
Seeing none. Thank you. Ned Gordon? Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ned Gordon. I live in the town of Bristol. and I come here on my own behalf, not representing anyone today other than myself. And I come in support of the bill and with concerns with regard to the bill. And by way of background, I have served as the moderator for the Newfound Area School District this is my 30th year. Basically for half the time the school district has been in existence. And I also have been very involved in the school district and the community. I graduated from the Newfound Area School Districts. I still wear my high school class ring as I have for the last 57 years. My children have gone to the school district through the school system. My grandchildren, I currently have 3 grandchildren in the school system. The school system consists of 7 towns. I have relatives that live in every one of the 7 towns. We are a long-standing family in the area. So my concern is, first of all, I support the bill, and I think I'm astute enough and experienced enough to know, given the sponsorship of the bill, that this bill is going to pass in some form. So that being the case, my only concern is with regard to how it affects all of the towns, not just the 3 towns that have come in today looking for the bill. And my concern is it's sort of like a divorce. My primary concern, first concern that I have, is that it basically gives the 3 towns 4 years to effectively go about separating from the district. Like a divorce, you wouldn't want your spouse to come home and say, I think I want a divorce, but I want 4 years to think about it. Okay. I think what needs to happen is that there be a specific date. Right now, the way the bill is written, actually the bill says it'll happen at the annual meeting in 2023, which I don't think is going to happen, or some subsequent year. And it appears in the bill, from my reading, that it gives them 4 years in order to decide. And I just don't think that's right, because you're going to be leaving those other 4 towns in limbo during that period of time. So I think, like Brexit, I've been trying to figure out a good acronym to use here, you know, bag it, I don't know what to do, but I think there needs to be a specific date. And I have a proposed amendment, which we'll be offering. But basically, the amendment says that they vote at their annual meeting in 2024. They get one bite of the apple. That gives them a year to basically plan and proposal for leaving the district, 2024. And then, if in fact, and rather than having multiple years to after they decide that they're going to leave, multiple years to decide what they're going to do, basically give them until the beginning of the fiscal year in 2025, basically 15 months later, to then start their school district. I think that that is fair. It would be fair to everybody, and it doesn't leave those other 4 towns in limbo, which I just think is inappropriate. And the reason for that is the other 4 towns are considering building new schools, which obviously, if they're in limbo, they're not going to be able to decide on building a new school, particularly the Bristol Elementary School. The town of Hill is interested in joining the school district. And of course, they're not going to do that unless they know what the circumstances are and who's going to be there, who they're going to be partnering with. So it's just critically important that there be a specific time frame. There's one other little change in there. It says a vote by the 3 towns. I just changed that to be all 3 towns. So there isn't, for example, if we have that vote in 2024 and 2 of the towns decide that they want to leave and 1 doesn't, that the 2 towns say, okay, we're leaving, and the other one is in the lurch. I just want to make the bill clear. I think that needs to be done. And the final change that I think needs to be made, and that is with regard to participation by the 3 towns in the Newfound Area School District in that period of time between the time they vote in 2024 and the time they actually start their school district in 2025. And I think you could make some type of an assumption, but I don't think that's clear, and it should be made clear, that the school board members from those three towns who are then continue to sit on the board should be able to continue to participate in day-to-day activities that are going on in the school up until the time their towns leave. But they shouldn't be voting on capital improvements for the remaining district, nor should they be voting on the budget for 2025, nor should they be voting on entering into contracts with other school districts or towns. In effect, entering a contract with themselves, which makes no sense. So this just says they would be disqualified from doing those things. And the last thing that it would be is if they vote to leave in 2024, in 2025, they'll be having their own annual meeting to appropriate a budget for 2025 year. They shouldn't, the voters of those three towns shouldn't be participating in the Newfound Area School District annual meeting, and it would preclude them from doing that. And that's the amendment. I know I sent an amendment to Senator Lang and to Senator Ennis, who's a co-sponsor on the bill, and I believe that he's supportive of that amendment as well. And I tried to have it for you here today, but I don't. I have a handwritten one, but I'm not sure that's what you really want. But you'll have another one, and that's my testimony here today.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator Gendro.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Gordon, for taking my question. With the other towns voting on 2024 at their town meeting, would you be looking in this amendment for a simple majority from them? Or would it be, and I can't even think of the term now, where it would have to be, what is it? Plurality?
Yeah.
Is that included in the amendment?
Not in my amendment. It doesn't change I haven't changed it in terms of the amount of vote that would be required.
Okay, all right. Thank
Senator
you.
Lang.
Thank you, and thank you for, I read your amendment as you sent it to me, and I had the same concerns with timeline and leaving the other school district kind of hanging, waiting for possibly up to 4 years to figure out what's going on. And so, but my question is around, I think I agree that the vote should be fairly soon to whether or not we want to break, the towns want to break that apart and give them time to form committees. But my question is around the other side of the vote. Is we heard that there's going to be some construction possibly needed, and how much time do you think is appropriate from the time they take the vote, considering the construction and everything else the school would have to go under to potentially deal with what they want to do is reasonable?
Well, this would have them begin their school district as if they were to vote in 2024. Their school district would begin on July 1st. Their students would start going to school in the end of August or the beginning of September of 2025, which is over 2 years, is about 2.5 years from now. So it would give them 2.5 years in order to plan. Frankly, I believe that, knowing Terry Murphy, we're not here discussing this without him already having thought this out, okay? And knowing what direction that they want to go in. If in fact they couldn't construct in the type of time frame that they're looking for, and I might just add in terms of background, when I was a state senator, I'm the one that was the prime sponsor of the bill for the school district to allow them to build their school. But I think that if in fact they weren't able to have construction in time to do everything they want to do, I think I've heard from them today several times, we want to be able to work with the Newfound Area School District or another school district in order to accommodate their needs.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your attention and time. Thank you.
Dean Cascadden. He left, okay. Brian Richardson?
Good morning.
Okay,
Can you hear
3
me okay?
minutes. I'm gonna have to be very strict with it.
Excuse me?
I said 3 minutes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have to be very
It won't,
strict
it
with
won't
it.
take that long,
Okay,
promise. Brian Richardson from Alexandria. I heard the amendment that Senator Gordon, Judge Gordon, presented to you guys. I do support the amendment. In part, I don't really support the bill as a whole, but the amendment would be at least something to that would be better than what the bill states. I am the chair of the planning board in the town of Alexandria. Alexandria has been talked about a lot in a negative way through this process. The town of Alexandria, we are a family-friendly town. We don't have rules, many rules that preclude families from moving into our town. We don't have 10-acre minimum lot sizes for families to come. So therefore, we have a lot more students. We have more students than most of the towns in the district. I know Bristol's bigger than Alexandria is, but that's basically what I wanted to say to you, that this large reason why this is happening, as Senator Gordon stated, is like a divorce, and it pains me to see that we're discussing this in a state Senate Education Committee. It should have been done locally, as we should have been able to discuss it and make decisions. Unfortunately, our towns do different in some of our thought processes, and thus we're here. So I thank you. I hope that you vote against this bill, but if not, I do hope that you support the amendment, and that we the four existing towns, the 4 towns left, will be able to go forward with our lives. Thank you.
thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thanks.
Thank you.
Pierre Couture?
Good morning. I'm Pierre Couture. I'm the superintendent of schools for Newfound School District and SAU 4. Before I start, I would like to give everybody a copy of an amendment I sent to Senator Ward on Friday through email, but I do have a copy, and it very much is similar to Ned Gordon's amendment. We met and talked about it. The only thing that's so all the timeline, as Senator Lang, has concerns about, as do we, but also brings in some elements of RSA 195, which spells out the process for having a withdrawal study in 180 days, also speaks to the committee. So in RSA 195, if you look at that, you'll see that it speaks about the school board members being on the committee and selectmen. So this would require the 3 existing Newfound board members from those 3 towns to be part of the committee as 1 selectman from each of the 3 towns. So because we feel that it's important that our current school board members would have input in that process. Everything else, I think, is the same, so I won't speak about that. But the problem, the reason for that, as Ned spoke about, was we're in the middle of working with the building committee and an architect and looking at, we have some very old, tired buildings that need attention. So it's very difficult. And, so our first goal was to bring a vote to our voters in March of 2024 for a bond vote on new construction. It's very difficult to ask our voters to vote for that when they don't know what is going on with the other side of the district in those three towns. So out of fairness, and I think that's what Ned was saying, to everybody else, it is, it's important that amendment, we hope that you would adopt that. So as a superintendent of those.
1 minute.
What's
You have
that?
1 minute left.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay. So I'm against this because I really feel it's going to limit opportunities. Okay. So regional districts were created to save money, share costs, and to expand opportunities for students. This is going to limit that. Right now, those students go to a middle school with about 280 students. In a school like that, we offer French and Spanish and computer instruction, wellness, phys ed, a long list of what we call allied arts classes. It's hard to imagine how a small school, middle school with 40 students would have the scale to be able to make those, to have those offerings for those students. Also, when they get to high school, they will not have any guarantees. They will be on their own to find a high school. And that will, as a parent, my children are out of high school, that would not make me feel assured that my kid may not have a high school to go to, or no
Time is up.
guarantees.
Your time is up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Fran Wendelbo.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Fran Wendelbo. We live in New Hampton. My sons both attended Newfound. I just got off the school board representing New Hampton, and in the past I served on the budget committee. As many of you may know, I'm a past 14-year member of the legislature, and there's a lot that you have not heard about the problems. Pierre touched on the building committee. We've had an architectural study done of all of our buildings. We've had an enrollment study done through 2032. We have gone from 1,600 students down to 1,150, with that trend continuing. We have aging buildings and we have plenty of space. It just needs to be rearranged. The biggest nut to crack is Bristol Elementary School has severe environmental issues and needs to be closed. We can do that by switching buildings around. The Bridgewater people say they want more control of the school and they want through 8th grade. Did they come to the board and formally request to take their kids back to 8th grade? Could have been done in a matter of weeks. No, they didn't. They said, oh, back in 2015. It's not 2015 anymore. And, as far as having representation, they have 3 board members out of 7 for 15% of the children. I think they have more representation than they should have when 85% of the kids only have 4 members. They've touched on the band, drama, sports, special math, and there is all special ed. It's we'll pay a fee for SAU 4 to manage our district. Well, how does that give them more say? Then they'd have really no say. Tuitioning to our high school, they'd have no say. I don't mind if they leave. I don't want anybody to be forced to stay in SAU 4. If I was voting, I would vote, I'd say go ahead and leave. They all talk about they built the school. Well, the state also built the school. There was significant state aid that went into that didn't come out of their taxpayers' dollars. And they didn't mention that we pay about $2.5 million in operating costs for that school.
30 seconds.
So this is a big step. We've had these studies, we've had hearings, we've had a building committee, and we were going to vote on that March of 24. How do we do that? And those other 3 towns still get to vote. So they're going to all vote against a new building because they don't want to be on the hook for it. So it almost guarantees that we fail. So I asked to support the amendment. I only asked for one little tweak, that it not give a time certain, but maybe just say, or earlier if the towns so wish. Because I think there's a lot of things that are unknown. Who's going to negotiate their school teacher contracts? What teachers are going to want to stay in such uncertainty? It's unfair to the kids. It's unfair to their taxpayers. And I just think they said 23, that they would have been voting on it. What the heck have they been doing? They had no answers for you on so many things you've asked. We know what the cost is going to be.
Your time is up. Thank you. Any questions from committee members? Saying none. Thank you
you.
very much. Don Milbrandt?
Thank you for hearing my testimony. Don Milbrand, I'm a resident of Bristol. I've had 12 years' experience on select board. My wife has served 2 terms on the school board, so I'm rather familiar with some of this. I'm speaking against this bill. You've heard a lot of testimony about all the wonderful things that will come of it, and I share the opinion of many people in the town, in the other town, the 4 towns, that we're not against that. Everybody is for an education. The reason I'm speaking out against this bill is that it circumvents the rights of those 4 towns. Did I get some extra time?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. That's the problem. RSA 195-25 already has a set procedure. A lot of the verbiage in HB 349 copies that. With Ned's amendment, it would copy it even closer. So I'm asking you, and they've said this is a special situation. It's not a special situation. It's a unique situation because of the building. I don't think it rises to the account where you need to apply a special law when there's well thought out representation of all the parties involved that in RSA 195-25. This is really circumventing that. It's the equivalent to me of spot zoning, where you're making special cases throughout for no reason, for no good reason at all in that respect. Several years ago, the town of Danbury voted to go out of the school district, and I was a selectman on that committee. And we came to an agreement. We figured everything out. It wasn't financially feasible for them. Everybody agreed, and the process works very well. The RSA is thought out very well. By doing special things like this, you're not only taking away the rights of the school district and the other towns, you're taking away a well thought out process that's already in place that could be applied here very well. I've heard several questions asked here, and the hows and the what about this? The one question that I would like you to ask is why? Why is this needed? What changed to bring about this need all of a sudden? This could be done with the processes that are in place. And I think if you dig deep enough, you'll find out that it isn't just for the students. The bottom line that this came up now is financial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Okay. Did you want a representative? Okay. Do we have one more before that? Melissa Suckling. Welcome. I don't know if you heard about the 3-minute rule, but that's what we're down to.
That's absolutely fine. I'm
Okay.
Melissa Suckling. I am the chair of the Newfound Area School Board. I am here on my own accord. I'm not speaking for the Newfound Area School Board. I'm here today. I do oppose the bill, but if you are going to approve it, I please ask of you to please accept the amendment to the bill. We, as a district, have been working really hard. Our facilities committee has been working so hard to try to get our schools up to par and where they need to be because maintenance has been forload for so long. It has put us in a crunch. We need to move forward with our facilities and our building committees to continue to move our district forward. So I oppose it. I feel like we as a school board weren't aware of this in time for the House committee, so I apologize for not speaking at that day, but I am coming here to ask you to please either oppose this or please accept the amendment as written. Thank you.
The amendment is the one with the time limit, right? That's the one you, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any questions from anybody? Thank you. Deborah House.
Deborah Howe?
She's left? Okay. Kimberly Bliss.
Good
Welcome.
morning still.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing my testimony today. My name is Kimberly Bliss. I am the Alexandria representative to the Newfound Area School Board. I am here speaking on my own accord, though, as an individual, not on behalf of the board. I came to speak in opposition to the bill as written. I would be supportive of the amendments proposed here today to limit the timeline because of the implications to the rest of the district as far as our facilities planning go, and just for the needs of the kiddos to understand where their home is in the district. That's one that kind of comes back to me. As an Alexandria resident, my children, my son who's now in the middle school and my daughter is currently enrolled at Bridgewater Hebron. When she overheard the discussion, or her concern was, am I going to get kicked out of my school? I assured her that wasn't going to happen. But that is my primary concern, to make sure that the kiddos all feel they are part of Newfound. And if a change is made, that it's done in a timely manner to alleviate some of that uncertainty. So I won't waste your time reiterating what other people have said because Fran and Melissa spoke much more articulately than I can. And that's all I have to say today.
Thank you very much.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Ladd.
He's out in the hallway. Did we speak already? Did we introduce?
He wanted to say something, I think. Did you want to add something to what we're talking about, 349?
No, I'm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just giving him a heads up.
Oh, okay. You have another
Waiting for the donuts.
That's not, we didn't get that kind of a budget. Okay, so anybody else who wants to speak on 339, 349? Yes, sir, and who are you?
I'm Representative Sellers.
Okay, did you sign up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee. I'm the lucky one that gets to represent 5 of these towns. All right, the 3 that want the divorce and the other 2 that are part of the district still, of the 7. In any case, I'm basically going to say I'm neutral on this.
Okay.
However, there's definitely merit as far as both sides, as far as what's going on. And I think if you're going to pass any of this bill here, I think the amendment that Honorable Ned Gordon put in, I think is the right way to go. I think it's a little more thorough, and it does tighten up the timeline. I can only tell you, I've probably had I'm probably say 70 or 80% of the people say, or even 90 are saying if they want to go, it's okay, let them go. And the other 10% are saying, no, it's not necessary, and it may be more detrimental, if it did. So if you have any other questions about the district, I've also been on the budget committee there as far as the school, so I know pretty much I've been involved for the last several years with the school.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Anybody else on 349? Then we're going to close the hearing on HB 349. You're welcome. And we'll go right into House Bill 452.
Moving right along.
Yeah, right. You can have those pink cards also.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the prime sponsor, Representative Ladd.
Good morning again, Chairman Ward, Senators on the Education Committee. For the record, my name is Rick Ladd. I come from Haverhill. I'm here today to introduce testify on 452, HB 452, which deals with the timelines for school building aid. I'm not going to take that long and talk about, thank goodness for that, about 2 minutes worth here. I know that Amy from the Department of Education is going to speak to the timeline. And so she has a little sheet on that, which is more succinct and it takes through the first page that I had for you. Most of the issues within this change for school building aid, the process we go through when the applications come in to the department. From there, the department looks at them, and when we go through the school building authority where they're checked and verified, and then they go on to the State Board of Education for approval. She'll take you through that time frame. But when we're looking at these applications, we're looking at them through the same lens that we've had in the past, where we're looking at a criteria. You can see on the base of the sheet there, which lists all the issues which we look at when we're looking at and rating and ranking these these needs that these schools have. I do want to address one component that's the causation for the amending language which we put in. We heard from the superintendent schools up in Colebrook, New Hampshire, and they are one of the recipients of school building grant this next biennium. And they have received a donation over $2 million from a single person. Really trying to lower those taxes in that particular community, which is a wonderful thing. But in order for that to be accepted, there was a place in law, 198-15E4, where it said funds received from charitable trusts, bequests, gifts, insurance policies, federal grants, or grants from other state programs shall be subtracted from the total project costs when computing grants under this paragraph. So if you're a district that received 30% upwards to 60% of your building aid from the state, then if you receive this $2 million, it'd be subtracted from that amount you received. We have changed that, and the amending language within the bill as you've received says funds received from federal grants or grants from the other state programs shall be subtracted. So that the charitable stuff and all that has been taken out, so they can receive that with the the amount of money from the state. And when we looked at this, came out unanimously from the committee to say, why do we have this language in there? It was put there years and years and years ago, and it doesn't make any sense. Yes, if you're receiving federal dollars or other state dollars, it should be subtracted. So we don't want, you can't get, dipped twice into the well. So that was a change which we had here. So I'm going to let the rest of this bill to be explained by Amy from the Department of Education. That's her job. She is in charge of building aid and not building aid, but building aid, construction, renovation projects. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Any questions for Representative Ladd?
Thank you.
Amy Clark.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Amy Clark, and I'm with the Department of Education. I'm the administrator of the School Facilities Bureau. This bill addresses a few, what I would say, problems with the application process, and I think will streamline the process quite a bit for schools and really town voters too. So if you have the building aid timeline in front of you, what I'd like to do is just take you through what happens now and then what would happen if the bill passed. So essentially, building aid currently is in a biennium process. So we rank applications every other year. In order to apply for this coming biennium's funds, schools have to apply July 1st last summer. That's that July 1 right there, that first timeline dot. And then what happens is a bunch of things happen in between that and when it's when the ranking is published. Applications get ranked, they get published by January 15th. So in between that time, from the time we receive an application to the time the ranking is published, the applications essentially get ranked by the Department of Education. They get turned over to the School Building Authority, who verifies that ranking, and then the State Board of Education approves that ranking and publishes that document. That still would happen after House Bill, if House Bill 452 passes. That process doesn't change. It's simply the timeline that's changing. So in the top timeline, again, what happens now, the ranking is published in January. So typically towns vote in March. Some cities operate differently, but in general, the towns vote in March on a warrant article for these big construction projects. They are voting on projects that they don't know what the state appropriation amount is. It's very difficult for towns to even know what they're getting from the state. Could be nothing, it could be something. So this just a note there. So the state budget is approved, if we're lucky, by July 1st. And then what happens is a school district has just found out that they have a large construction project. They pass their town vote, but they don't know if money comes available. July 1st, they get the news, but that is too late for them. They're not going to call up their contractor to have them on site the next day. They've lost a lot of precious time for the construction season. They're not going to be able to start construction in July. So that gets pushed off typically to the following spring. If it's a renovation project, they'll be lucky if they could start that summer, but most likely that would have to start the following summer. So you can see there, spring construction season, that's 22 months after they have applied, which makes cost of construction, cost of projects, so that's another difficulty. With House Bill 452, this is what the timeline would look like. Schools wouldn't apply until April 1st, just before the state budget is approved. So you can see that's several months later that they're applying for building aid. The state budget is approved July 1st, again, assuming status quo. Then the ranking is actually now published November 15th. Then towns vote in the following March, and then they can go to construction right away. And the reason why they can go to construction right away is because the state budget is already known at that time. So that timeline does really 4 important things. It also changes this to an every year process. Schools aren't having to wait every other year. So even though I only showed those dots at the bottom for 1 year, they actually repeat. If I put them on there, it got really busy. So this process actually repeats for second year. So 4 things. One is that process for House Bill 452 changes the building aid application process to an annual process. Two, it ranks those projects after an appropriation is already known, which allows them to go to their town voters with an actual commitment from the state. And it publishes that ranking instead of in January, in November. It actually helps schools write their warrant articles as well. And then lastly, it avoids missing that key construction season of that spring season. Once the town approves a project, they can go ahead and to construction when they're ready. So if that's really all I have about the bill, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sounds like a simplified process. Is there anybody else who likes to say something on this thing? I don't have any more people signed up. If not, we close the hearing on House Bill 452. And we'll go to the last bill of the day, which is House Bill 207. Representative Flett is here. You can have this one.
All set.
Go ahead. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair Ward, and thank you, Senators, for hearing my testimony. I'm the prime sponsor on HB 207, and it was a constituent request from SAU 19. And what it does, in a nutshell, is it raises from $5,000 to $20,000 the amount required for the school board to go out and post and get a special hearing with all the notices in the newspaper and all that. And so in doing so, nothing will be lost to the public because anything below $20,000 will still be heard at the school board meeting, and that's published, that's noticed, and people can speak up during public session and say what they want about it. That's simple, and I have Scott Gross from SAU 19, business manager, to follow me, and he's got some facts and figures, hopefully. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very
Any
much.
questions?
Any questions for Representative Flett? Seeing none. Thank you. Okay, the person following.
Good morning. My name is Scott Gross, and I'm the business administrator for SAU 19 in Goffstown and New Boston. And I want to thank Representative Plett for sponsoring this legislation. This was something that we really thought was more of a housekeeping type issue. This threshold to accept unanticipated revenue hasn't really been changed in, I think it's about 18 years, obviously with inflation, things like that. And what we found was that we were getting donations that were over $5,000, and our obligation is to, under the current law, is to hold a public hearing that requires a notice in the newspaper. Also requires a public hearing, which would typically be right before the school board meeting. We have done about 5 or 6 of these in the district over this past year. And we had snowstorms, so we had to cancel, repost. And similar to the last discussion about just efficiency and effectiveness, when you're looking to maybe start a project, but you can't start the project until you have those funds, it just it could delay things like a month or two. And it's just kind of an administrative issue more so than anything else where, again, you have to hold these hearings, and it's really nothing more than what we do right now at most school board meetings or most select board meetings, et cetera, where if the threshold is changed from 5,000 to 20,000, the school board still must hold, they're still going to accept the money. It's going to still appear on their agenda, but it just eliminates the need to have to post it in the newspaper and hold a special public hearing. So this seems fairly housekeeping in nature, but one that I think will be a relief to many in my position and school districts not having to do this on a lot of these. So, and I said before, about 4 or 5 a year, sometimes as high as 8 that we do. I don't know if there's any questions.
Any questions from the committee members?
All right.
Seeing none.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time. I appreciate it.
Is there Laura Taylor around?
she had to, due to the length of the other hearing, she had to leave.
Oh, okay, thank
Sorry.
you. Do you know what she will be speaking on, or do you know her?
She works at my office, and she was going to speak in favor of this bill.
Okay, okay,
She
fine.
was the one who actually suggested that we do it, so I have to give credit to her.
Okay.
to me.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else wants to say anything about this bill? If
I
not,
vacated the bill out of education, seeing we're just changing figures. There's no policy change. We're doing something very comparable out in Grafton County. $5,000 doesn't go very far in today's world. It should be upped.
yeah, okay. Nothing else, then we close the hearing on House Bill 207. And the public hearing for the whole thing is closed.
Object the last two bills.
Yeah,
Unanimous after.
yes, get them out.
Madam Chair, I move we go into executive session.
Second, all those in favor? Okay, let's take a look at 207 because I have that open.
Madam Chair, I'd move OTP on House Bill 207.
Okay.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor of OTP?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 5-0. Consent?
I'll move consent.
Second.
Gendro and Lang. Any discussion on consent? All those in favor of consent?
Aye.
That's 5-0. Who wants to take it out?
I'll take it out.
Gendro will take it out.
Madam Chair, on House Bill 452, I move OTP.
That was a good too because that was an FN bill. So that's nice to get that one out. 275 was next one.
As I moved 452, which is the 452. That was
Oh,
the other
452.
unanimous bill out of the House.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I'm assuming it's OTP with a second.
Yes.
Okay, and any discussion? All those in favor of OTP on House Bill 452?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0.
Move consent.
Consent?
Second.
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 Benton, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 5-0.
You
Who
wanna take it
wants
out,
to
sir?
take it out? Prentice will take it out. Okay, great. Move out of executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. We're done.
Two bills off our plate anyway.
We are done.
So, Madam Chair, I do have the amendment. That's the Hebron bill, school district bill, and the amendment basically cleans up